Welcome to Synced on Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and thanks to Turfs Up Radio for hosting us on their platform. Today, I have a guest from Arizona, Evan Lambert from Vert Plantworks. Welcome, Evan.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
Well, it was great to read a little bit about your history because it looks like you've been on the go doing lots of different things over the last wee while. Tell us a little bit about your
Yes,
background and,
yes.
and what led you to starting up Vert Plantworks.
Yeah, so born and raised in Arizona, I got into the landscaping bug really early, kind of helping out my mom do the house and stuff. And my first job was working for the local nursery that we used to go to in our neighborhood. And kind of fast forward about 8 years later, ended up managing that same nursery.
Oh,
So
cool.
I worked in the retail industry. I've worked in the sales industry. 2008, Arizona's economy crashed with a lot of other states with the housing crisis.
Mhm.
So being in the landscape industry, that's one of the first things people stop spending money on. Houses aren't being built, things like that. So had some family in New York City. So I just took a leap and went out to New York City and started working for a high-end residential company. So we did a lot of terraces, rooftops with a lot of celebrities, brokers, just all the rich people in New York City. So I kind of got a different perspective of, as opposed to traditional landscaping, to working 15, 20 stories up, working in very confined spaces,
Yes.
going through basements to bring in material because you just don't have access. So it was a completely different beast, as well as none of the same plant material. Going from the desert to
Yeah.
the northeast, it's going from cactus to
Humidity
box.
to
Yeah,
no
from cactuses
humidity.
to boxwoods and ilexes and stuff like that. So a lot of new plant material to learn, and just how to keep things alive when they're 40 stories up and it's colder up there. So, just all these different things learning. And then I ended up working for a interior company, and that's kind of where the bug came from, and kind of where we are now and where I am now. Kind of the same thing, worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, a lot of, smaller companies and stuff, but getting into the living walls, the plantscaping,
Mm.
that kind of aspect. And it just was, very, very interesting coming from being in the outdoor world for so long, and then doing that outdoor world in such an urban environment, and then also learning the interior world at the same time in a very dense urban environment with a lot of companies that have money to spend to bring in greenery, to bring in what the term biophilic, and to help employees, and so was doing that up into the pandemic. And then the pandemic happened, got laid off for about 2 weeks, and then we got dubbed essential workers. So we started to slowly go back into some of the companies to try and revive what was there, what wasn't being
Oh
maintained for
gosh.
a month or so. And then, slowly, as companies felt, more comfortable with us going in, we kind of picked up. And then it just, with my family and stuff, it was just like, we need a change. So my wife is from the East Coast. My son is from the East Coast. So, let's make a change. And so we decided to move to Arizona. And with the growth of Arizona and where we are in downtown Phoenix and other cities, it just is been a big hotbed. And so, right time, right place, learning all these new skills, bringing it back to Arizona and starting the company, and working with residential as well as commercial companies to take what I've learned in New York City to kind of accelerate what is being done. Like we had meant, like you had mentioned earlier in our pre-conversation about taking what's being done in other parts of the world. And like I
And
always say,
introducing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Phoenix is 10 years behind LA and New York. So let's take my skills, let's take
Ah,
the knowledge and kind of, let's speed up the process. And like I said, it's just been like the perfect tipping point with all these new companies that are moving into the Phoenix and the outskirts areas and stuff. And they are wanting to, bring the greenery and bring all that stuff, for their employees, as well as, like I said, we do residential. So why not give residents that see all this stuff in restaurants and in lobbies
yes.
and hotels, and they
Bring it
don't,
to their
yeah,
homes.
they don't think I can have that. Well, guess what? You can. It's
Mm,
just, a lot of commercial companies don't work with residential. So we want to be able to kind of, fill that void with that, and, let
so
them
you
have a
can,
nice house with a green wall or a moss wall, stuff like that. So kind of my, my long journey over the years.
yeah. Well, and I was gonna say, I didn't want to interrupt, but working at 40 stories in the air, so you must not be afraid of heights.
No, 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 yeah. And, year round, we would spend the winter times of doing a lot of the prefabrication, the pavers, do a lot of that stuff. So as soon as the weather broke, we can get the plants in and we can have that first job done. So, yes, 40 stories up, but also sometimes it's 5 degrees up there. It's windy. We're working through snow and
Jeez.
stuff like that. So, it's a completely different beast. And, it's the same thing out in Arizona where it's 120 outside, so it's just different extremes.
Yeah, one
So yeah,
extreme to the other.
yeah, plant wise, denseness wise, temperature wise, yeah, it was, but it was one of the greatest experiences. And, just got to see how other dense urban areas, London, China,
Did
Japan,
things.
and, what they are doing to, help their environment with pollution and smog and, things like that. And also just mental health and stuff with plants. So
Well, and I think it is, we do need more greening of something that you hear a lot is of greening of gray concrete.
mhm.
You have a lot
Concrete,
of
yes.
concrete walls in
Yes.
Arizona,
Hmm.
and one of the things that you mentioned was, making them lush and green was
Hmm.
also helps with the heat island effect.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yep.
and
Yeah.
you've,
You're taking
yeah,
that away and putting plants in front of it. So, there's no heat to absorb. So,
yeah,
and then you're just making something beautiful on this gray block wall that everybody looks at in their backyard. So,
yeah. And so, how much of your work is indoors versus outside?
we're about 60-40 indoors with outdoors.
Okay.
And then we're about
But
50
just in
50
containers
just in
and
containers. Yes.
walls.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Planting. Yeah. But not your traditional landscaping. So patios, courtyards, things like that. We
Yeah.
kind of stick to that, working with restaurants and, patio planters and railing planters and stuff. So, yeah. So we do some of the traditional, but not that digging in the ground and,
No digging in the ground.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, no, no laying gravel. Yeah, none of that.
All fresh soil,
Exactly. Yeah.
rich soil. Well, and so I think you were about to say, were you about to say the percentage of commercial to residential that you
Oh,
do?
yes. Yeah. Commercial to residential, we're right about 50-50. So,
Wow. And
yep.
did you
Yeah.
think, how long ago did you start the company?
About 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And did
Mhm.
you think that it would be 50-50 residential commercial at the time?
I had an idea that it would be. I just didn't think it would be this quickly. I thought we would have a little bit more residential because that's kind of what we were really focusing on in the beginning.
Okay.
Kind of coming out of the pandemic and, things like that of kind of, going back to the block walls of, everybody has a landscape backyard. So during the pandemic, everybody, obviously got into plants, but also got into growing vegetables and things like that. So you have this fully landscaped, nice backyard. You want to do a vegetable garden. Well, you
Where
have
do
to
you put
remove
it?
something, go
Yeah.
vertical. Yes, not every vegetable will work in a vertical system, but you can grow, cherry tomatoes, Roma tomatoes. You can grow green onions, lettuces, chives, so you can grow a good amount of things and, still have a nice backyard, but then that gray block wall becomes a lot more attractive.
Yeah.
And
Foodscaping.
so, exactly. And, we can throw mint and basil and, have mosquito repellent plants. So when we get into the monsoon season,
Great
you're
idea.
also using that as, yes, another sense of, you're getting the aroma, which is positive to keeping pests away.
Yeah.
So these outdoor walls, it kind of come like sensory with the smell, the sight, the sounds, and things like that. So it just kind of what I call is like a complete landscape of, there is nothing there that you don't want to see, and you kind of just finish off that last little element.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And also helping with the heat is always a
Mm-hmm.
benefit when you're
Yes.
out in that direction. Um, so like you say on your website that you work for homeowners and restaurant you mentioned earlier restaurants, commercial
Mm-hmm.
properties. But do you also get, I mean, I know you're actually a form of a landscape company, but not a
Yes.
traditional form. But do
Mm-hmm.
you also get hired by landscape businesses to install
We do,
living
yes.
walls?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. They'll either a client will want it or it will get spec'd in, and it's something that they don't want to touch.
It's a
They
specialty part of
Exactly.
the,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's when I talk to people, it's like we're at the very bottom of the funnel. Like you take every component and you bring it down, and that's kind of where we are of like, very specific, type of the
Niche.
landscaping and stuff. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's we, nothing with that, but it's like, we're not the typical mow and blows, and we get phone calls and will you come and cut our grass and stuff like that. And so it's and with that, we like to have that niche. We want to be
Mm,
really specialized. There's so many companies out there that do a lot of great work, and let's kind of funnel that down and let's do great work in a different aspect
yeah.
that
So
has
they
a
can
lot of
hire you to do the specialty work and they don't have the
correct.
risks of understanding the systems
Hmm.
and getting the right plants.
Correct. Yes.
So I think that's part of it. And I'm actually experimenting a little bit myself. At our last event in Atlanta, G Sky had sponsored our main stage. So we had living
Nice.
walls for our stage.
Hmm.
And I took them back to our office and put them outside the office. And I was like, oh my goodness, what plant? I'd never planted up a green wall and like chose some plants. And
Hmm.
as the summer went on, I was like, oh yeah, though I could have chosen better. These carrots did fine, but the strawberries not so much. And
Hmm. Yep.
or
Yeah.
maybe it was my care, I don't know. But
No.
I'm
Yeah.
experimenting with it. But it's a whole different dimension for landscapers. We are used to working on the flat, but I do
Yes.
believe more vertical elements in a landscape project can actually make it more interesting
Hmm.
and it can cozy up different areas. Where's the let's just pick exterior
Hmm.
or residential or commercial, either one.
Hmm.
What's the most common um place that you're putting it? Is it on a building? Is it on freestanding walls?
Yeah,
Are you building
freestanding.
walls for them?
Yes, yeah, freestanding walls, retaining walls, covered patios,
Okay.
so attached to a stucco wall. So yeah, so we kind of get either more of a shaded environment, or we're dealing with a sun environment, but we will have to, you know, adjust either the facing of the wall, or are we going to have to put some
Okay.
type of canopy or shade cover on it? And then that also will determine what type of plant material we're going
Yep.
with. Are we able to go with more of like a lush tropical look if we're on a covered patio area, or are we going with more of kind of traditional landscape plants and a more sun environment? So yeah, a lot of it is kind of site specific, but we do have a really good, kind of plant palette that we do like to use. We use a lot of asparagus ferns. We like spider
Nice.
plants.
Okay.
Purple heart, Triscanthia is to kind of give some color.
Yeah.
We'll
Foliage
use,
color.
yeah, we'll use some like seasonal things like Aptinia, because we'll get that either that variegated or non-variegated, and we get the nice little white flowers. So we
Yeah.
have some of our outdoor walls, we've got the spider plants that are blooming now. We have the Aptinia is blooming, so we have white flowers. We've got red flowers. So we kind of, bring that other element in there with the nice variegated leaf and stuff on it as well. So it kind of just, we're getting that seasonal look as well with stuff that is blooming. The purple heart are kind of getting their pink flowers now. So some of our outdoor walls are kind of really showy, just
Yeah.
due to the additional color that we're getting and stuff. So
And so
yeah,
you do sometimes do annuals within it to
yep,
give it that pop.
yep, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
In
yeah, and
most of them or in some of them
in
or
some of them, yeah, in some of
okay.
them, we'll kind of add, yeah, our little seasonal rotation of that we'll kind of throw in there and stuff.
And is that
Yep,
more for the exterior ones versus
correct.
interior? Interior
Yep,
maybe seem to stay the same because they're interior plants and
exactly. We do
climate
have a
controlled.
couple accounts where we use wall-mounted planters, and what we'll do is we'll go and remove some of the plants, and we'll go and plant poinsettias. So we'll add a little pop of
Ah,
holiday decor
yeah, yeah.
inside there, and then once the season's over with, we'll pop out those poinsettias, and then we'll pop the new, the original plants back in there and stuff. So kind of give it a little holiday vibe and
A
stuff as
zing.
well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. This either nice pop of red or like a peppermint, and so it kind of, makes it a little bit more festive with the other holiday decor and stuff in there, and kind of gives it like, oh, a nice little holiday cheer. Some of them we'll put some poinsettia picks in there, kind of the same thing, but,
Yeah.
not live and stuff, but kind of just adds, yeah, a little pop. And we did a Mexican restaurant, and our maintenance team went there around the Halloween, and all of a sudden they found some like little skeletons kind of hiding in the walls
Oh,
and stuff.
that's neat.
That,
Yeah.
that was that was really fun. So it was fun to kind of see
In the
those pictures.
plants within
Yeah,
the
kind of like
system.
crawling out
Yeah.
and stuff. So they kind of get a little creative and stuff as well. So yeah, it was a lot of fun with kind of seeing those pictures, and I was like, oh, I like them being creative with the wall and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
within
And so
reason, as long as they're not damaging it.
and well, and that's a good point. Do you, so you design and install, but
Hmm.
do you also offer the maintenance side of
Yes.
things too? Okay,
Hmm.
because I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
imagine that's something that people aren't as familiar with.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We do from weekly visits to some accounts. We go every 3 months because the clients are a little bit more involved and handsy with it. So we will come
Okay.
in, do a nice cutback, do a fertilization. We'll throw, new sticky traps in. We'll do a pest control.
Mm,
And then other ones, they're just like, just come in, send us the bill, any improvements or anything you think, just, so we have like a very range of clients of how involved they want to be or how
yeah.
hands off, and we're hiring you to come in and just make it look nice and keep it looking nice. So yeah.
What is, when somebody calls you, a client or a landscaper, and calls you and you go and see the site, what are the challenges that you might have to face? I can imagine interior is very different from exterior.
Hmm.
But what do you see as the challenges, the stumbling blocks that you go, well, not sure we can do it for these reasons.
Yeah,
What?
the two biggest I see are light and kind of conditions, like interior conditions. The biggest thing with plants is, and just with any plant, they are so used to having the highs and lows, the fluctuation of the day. And when you're bringing a plant into an office, it's 72 or 74 year
Oh,
round, 24 hours a day. So, we're looking at lighting. Do we need to bring in additional lighting? Or, if we're looking for doing a living wall, things we look at are, do we have direct water access? Do we have drainage? Is this going to be a recirculating system? Is this going to be a hand water system? Is this going to be where once the system runs, we're going to shop back because we don't have a drain and we don't want to keep standing water in an office environment to start to create mosquitoes and soil gnats
yeah.
and kind of breed things that we don't want to breed in an office environment. Where we always run into, we go in and we do an installation, we're doing maintenance. There's always people who love plants in offices, and there are always people who hate plants in offices. So those are challenges. Office environments, we have an issue with plants being waterlogged because people think, oh, at the end of the day, they're going to dump out their water into this plant. And if they're doing that every day, that plant's getting water every
Oh
single day. So,
no.
so
Yeah.
sometimes we may need to put little, like, please don't water us notes, we're being maintained. Or,
Yeah.
we'll talk, if we see a certain area and it's like a certain desk, we'll, politely go and say, hey, we're taking care of these, unfortunately, these plants are struggling just due to the extra water, and kind of talk with them. So, those are kind of some of the challenges that we kind of run into on an interior side. Luckily, with exterior, unless there's an irrigation issue with too much water or not enough water, you know, we don't visit outdoor walls as often
As
because
often. Yeah.
they don't need those yellow leaves picked off, every single day. They're going to fall off naturally with wind and
Yeah.
movement and things like that. So, yeah, it's, indoor plants are very needy.
Well, yeah, and
They
I
need
can
lots of
imagine.
attention.
I never thought of people, watering them for you and
Hmm. Yep. Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
not realizing. And
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, they don't know, and and so it's, we want to kind of, make them aware, and things like that. So, and we do
and
it in a polite way. Sometimes management will send out emails of, hey, we have somebody here taking care of them. They don't need water, but thank you. Yeah.
yeah, you have to do some sleuthing, I guess, to
Yeah.
figure
Yeah.
out, yeah, or yeah, just send it out to everybody that
Mhm.
thanks anyway, but we
Yeah.
don't need
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, so we make
And
like little fun signs with like little sayings and stuff, like, our plant
oh,
parent is taking care of us, or
yeah.
if we need water, they'll give us, just little fun things like that, just to like, because we don't want to make them feel bad. We want them to be like, okay, it's, I appreciate the extra effort, but we got this.
Yeah. Well, and I was just thinking, I became fascinated with interior green walls as well. And I'm thinking it was about 2008 or so. And I
Hmm.
was living in Scotland and I saw woolly puckets.
Oh,
And that was
yes.
the first one that I saw that you could just, buy and try to do yourselves. And
Hmm.
because they were only available in the US, I actually got them shipped to my mom's house. And the next time she visited Scotland, she had to carry all of these
Panels.
wool, well, they were wool at the time, recycled wool,
Yep.
and brought them over. And they're still doing well. We sold the house about 4 years ago, but we left them because, of course, we had them in the house on this steel beam
Oh,
up
very
high.
nice.
And it
Hmm.
was just it added so much to the decor in the
Yes.
house.
Yeah.
And since we had them, I can't imagine not having them.
Yes. Yep.
it's really an essential part. But I guess it makes me think. So since 2008, I'm sure, I mentioned how we have some outside our house, our office here that are from G Sky. They're
Hmm.
very landscaper friendly. You
Yes.
just put them in the pots. But I guess you deal with lots of different suppliers and lots of
Yeah.
different styles of wall,
Hmm.
depending on what clients need. How
Correct. Yep.
many are there lots of different companies? I mean, what's how
There's
available are these systems
there's
and
probably about 100 different companies out
a
there that
hundred?
make
Wow.
all different types of systems. We use about 3 to 4 systems.
Okay.
We use the woolly pockets. One of the reasons
Yeah,
we
okay,
like that
okay.
so well is because it is a recycled product. And through a local organization here that we belong to, we're a certified green company. So it's part of who we are. So we really like to use products that are recycled materials. And so that's one of them. And we actually use that system in
The
downtown.
wool, the recycled wool.
Yep, yeah, we
Okay.
use that in a succulent wall we have in downtown Phoenix at a kind of a food drink hall that's made out of recycled shipping containers. So
Oh,
so
perfect.
yeah, so there's a company here that has been doing some developments with recycled shipping containers, and so when they reached out to us, it's like this is kind of the route we should go with this system because they are using recycled
Yep.
materials to put their restaurants, put their bars, put their little little stores and stuff in there. And so we really
Similar mission.
yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
product because it does hold moisture and it kind of releases back into the pocket, either if you use the felt wrap or if you plant directly into there. So yeah, it's a great system. When I was mentioning earlier the wall mounted planters, that's also from another company, and they divert millions and millions of water bottles and soda bottles out of landfills
Oh,
and make planters out of them. So we like using companies like that. But yeah,
yes.
we have a G Sky system that we'll be installing at the end of the year. I've used that a lot in New York City. The Woolly Pocket one. There's another new system on the market that kind of is very similar to the G Sky system, but it's more of an enclosed system to where
Okay.
it acts like a hydroponic. And
Oh,
we go through and we add wicks to the plants. The water still sits in that angle, but it doesn't sit like the G Sky where it sits more into the water. It's a little bit more elevated, and they'll hold water for a few days. And when they need the water, they'll wick it back up.
yeah.
So those are some of the systems, and they're we either go for what's going to be best for this interior environment or this exterior environment. And then also what makes it nice is we have systems to give us a different price range of price per square footage. So, we can go as low
Okay.
as 140 to 150 per square foot to a system. Or if we're going more into the G Sky, we're going to be, up in that 200 per square foot. Um,
Yeah.
they're all great systems, so there's a few systems we've used in the past we don't use anymore just because Arizona is a beast for the environment, and they just weren't going to work
Yeah.
well. So we like to
You
try
test
new
them
things.
out and you
Exactly.
figure out what's
So
best for your
mhm.
climate.
Yep,
And so,
yeah.
and are you only in Phoenix? Are you getting outside of the city as well?
Yeah,
What's
we've done an installation in Santa Fe. That was
okay?
fun. We went through in April. We went through a rebranding. We used to be called Phoenix Green Walls, and so we wanted to expand outside of Phoenix. We do more than green walls. Like I said, we do faux walls, moss walls, interior plantscaping. So we wanted to kind of encompass more of that. Yes, we are still a local company, but we want to kind of work outside of the Southwest. We've gotten leads from Tucson, we've gotten leads from California, other parts. Unfortunately, not all of them we're gonna be able to sell, but we do get some clients that reach out to us from outside of Arizona, and we want to expand.
What?
We want to
Yeah.
continue to expand. We want to eventually, we would love to have our own line of products, our own living wall system. So hence that rebranding. so we wanted to,
To
have
stay
a name,
open.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would have, a better product name down the line, but then, like I said, also encompass everything that we do and not just living walls in Phoenix.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I love the moss walls too. And is it probably a stupid question, but is it all preserved moss, or
Yes.
do you have some that are living moss? That would
Everything that
be
we use
harder.
is all preserved. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. You know, live moss can be done. It's just we just don't have the humidity out here. So
Yeah.
and that can kind of make it tricky with moss walls. So there are times throughout the year where they can, get a little dry. So we work with clients on, how to educate them on, having humidity in there, and then also let them know, as soon as the humidity comes back, that moss will get really soft again. So it may go through a drying period, but it will
Okay.
reabsorb moisture and kind of go through cycles and stuff. So,
Okay. And so how long does the preserved moss wall last? Or it
um,
lasts a really long time, or
yeah, on average, a lot of the vendors, they're saying, 8 to 10 years
okay.
before it kind of starts to deteriorate, things like that, lose its color. Some of the biggest factors kind of going back of, people being, people are curious, what is this? I do it all the time when I go to spots because I want to see, how it's holding up and moisture and stuff. So, touching it obviously is going to have some of effect if it's dry and stuff. So,
Yeah.
we notice some where we have some installations to where, near an elevator, from shoulders down, you're going to see some damaged people coming out, bags
Um,
being hit, going to hit the
okay.
elevator, floor, bags or, stuff like that. So, there is going to be some damage
Wear
like
and
that.
tear.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Wear and tear. So we kind of go back in and, kind of update where we need to and, stuff like that. So,
It does look very striking to
yes.
the
Yeah, I really enjoy when we get Moss product or projects. It's a different animal. It's, we're taking something and we're creating art with something that's been preserved, something that's living or at one point was living. We can do company logos. We can,
oh wow.
the sky is the limit of what we can do based
Yeah.
on the color and how we can, cut shapes. So we've done a few logos for a few companies,
Oh
and we're
neat.
able to, replicate their logo, pretty exact. One of them, we adjusted colors because they wanted more of a natural green moss as opposed to their logo being blue. So we just adjusted it, accordingly with the color,
Hmm.
but it's still the same IV drip. So we have a lot of flexibility of, doing branding pieces as well as doing, just really fun, what I call, art, living art and stuff. So,
Well, I mean, you say the moss walls are like art, but
mhm.
I just think even the living walls are such a unique
Yep.
form
Hmm.
of gardening and
Yes. Yep.
landscaping.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, in Europe, we see a lot of landscape businesses adding an indoor plantscapes division, or biophilia division, because it's it is a similar vein, but like you said, it's niche.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
a lot of tricky parts to it. Like, well, and you mentioned this earlier, a lot of your indoor systems will have a recirculating system, and you're
Hmm.
recirculating the water too,
Yep.
which will have its own issues, and
Yes.
yeah, where you put the tanks and where.
Mhm. Yeah, and
So,
we have some of the worst water out here with,
oh, do
lots of
you?
calcium. So,
Okay.
we have to either clean emitters or we have to change out emitters because they get clogged,
Okay.
within 6 months to a year, just with all the calcium. Yes, we still use filters or we use filters, but, material still gets kind of, gets through. So our 2 gallon per hour emitters that are red, within a while, we'll start seeing white calcium build up on it. So we go and
Okay.
clean them. If they're too clogged, then we go through and replace them. So
Yeah.
kind of with that woolly pocket system, same thing. We are starting to see some calcium build up on the front of it. So it's becoming a little white in spots. So every once in a while, we'll kind of go and, kind of rub off the
Clean it.
calcium and stuff. So
Okay.
that's another component of what we have is really hard water out here. And, faucets, you see calcium build up all the time.
Yeah.
And
We have
so
that in
yeah,
Lafayette
it's
too.
another
Yeah.
component that we have to
That you
deal
have
with.
to watch.
Exactly, yeah.
It is very niche. And
It's the
then
Wild West.
well, yeah, it is. It is. And then I did read something about, how you're even, taking the Western style into account
Hmm.
in the design of your plants. Is that in the plant choice or is that,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll use we want to use some of those natural plants to kind of throw that in there.
right.
We will use colors. Southwest is a lot of oranges, reds, browns. So
Terracottas.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like crotons are a great plant for that because they've got a lot of those colors.
Okay.
We one of my favorite plants is that we always try to throw into a wall is either the neon philodendron or the pothos neon because I like that lime
The
green
contrast. Yeah.
because from a distance you see that neon, you see that color, and it kind of draws you into the wall and stuff. And so it's one of those plants that in down a long hallway or up close, it's going to be that plant that really stands out. So
Yeah.
I like to incorporate that as much as possible. On an outdoor wall, we would use the potato vine, the neon potato vine to kind of get that
Okay.
similar aspect and stuff. So
Well,
that's
and with the
kind of like,
vine,
yep.
are you having to do a lot more maintenance? Because I know, well,
Yes.
I mean, this is in South Louisiana. I know potato vines grow like crazy.
Yeah, that would be
Um,
our like kind of seasonal one that we would go through after it gets leggy because, if you have so many of them and you cut them back, you have these voids. So it's a lot of this,
you have to keep on
layering.
top of to
Exactly.
make
Yeah.
sure it's
So
looking good.
cut
Yeah.
cut the underneath to rejuvenate that while the outer grows, and then when the inner underneath is rejuvenated, then we kind of go and cut the outer. So it's this kind of whole
Okay.
cycle of making sure the wall always looks fresh
Yeah.
and full. And sometimes certain plants that we want to put into there, we know it's going to be a little bit more hands-on involvement, but it's going to give us
But
that look that we want.
you're maintaining it
And we're
yourself. So
maintaining
then
it. Hmm.
you yeah, that it eliminates that concern about maintenance. If
Yes.
one plant's doing better than the other one or filling in differently, if you know
Hmm.
you're taking care of it, you know you can control that.
Yep.
And
Yes.
I guess ultimately, um, do you often put plants in and go, that's just not performing, just like you do
Hmm.
in normal landscapes, and you have to
Yep.
move things around.
Yeah.
So it gives you that flexibility too.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about residential clients is some of them will allow us to kind of experiment because there's certain
Okay.
plants that I really would love to put in. We did this wall that we were going to call the floral wall, and we had a bunch of annual colors and stuff. And one of the plants that I really wanted to have in there was a clumping gazania that had a gray leaf because it
Ooh.
had really nice contrast, but it just became a very, very dense plant to where it just started to kind of not really rot out, but just lose everything from the inside. So, we have
Oh,
kind of contingencies for that.
yeah.
Every once in a while, we want to kind of try something new. We really love Purple Heart. We love variegated Purple Heart. But what we discovered is they always don't work well when they get long and dangly because they're a
Uh,
very soft tissue. And depending on the system, they
and they
kind of bend.
fall over.
So,
Okay.
so we love that variegated color, that like kind of that pinkish, that purple.
Yeah.
But we know in certain systems they're just not going to do well because it's a harder edge that is going to crimp or damage that soft tissue vine. And so yeah, there
You have
are
to replace it more often, or
exactly,
yeah.
or we're cutting it back and we can't let it get too long and too heavy at the bottom to where it gets that. So kind of getting back to is, yes, we really want this plant. We know it's gonna, it's gonna be more maintenance for this wall, but it's going to give us the aesthetic or the look that we're looking for and stuff. So
Yeah. Well,
um
and yeah, I was just thinking of the whole transition from New York to Arizona. I mean, such a
mhm,
shock. So yeah, you have to be able to experiment a lot,
mhm.
if you're, learning in such a different climate.
Yes,
And
yep.
yeah, the fact that humidity versus dry. So
Mhm.
well,
Yeah,
amazing work. And yeah, your website has some great examples of it.
thank
I
you.
said to you a little while ago, we'll have to get some of your projects in our publication to show
Yes,
them off
yes,
because
definitely. Yeah.
fantastic. And again, just another dimension to add to people's interiors or exteriors. So
Yes. Yep.
love it. And how can they, if our audience are listening and they want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
They can find us on Instagram at actually at vertplantworks. Our website is vertplantworks.com. They can email us at hello@vertplantworks.com. Um, and we're on Facebook as well, Vert Plant Works. So a lot of the social
Awesome.
medias. So yeah, they can kind of find us, website, email, social media. Um,
We might need one of those moss logos for our office, so we'll
yes,
have to talk
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I drive around a lot and I'm always finding very cool logos that in the back of my mind, I put that company name in there and we have our business development. We kind of go and reach out and be like, hey, we think you have a really cool logo. Sometimes we get hits, sometimes we don't, but I'm always out there. I'm like, that's a cool logo. That would be a cool one. So yeah, I'm always kind of brainstorming and kind of doing cold call reach outs and be like, hey, I would love to work with you because I think we can make something really cool for you. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I love moss and it keeps me, driving all day long is not fun. So any way I can make a game of it, kind of remember things and find cool logos and companies, I do. So yeah.
Well, I'll have to tell the rebranding um person that we used about your services too, because that might be a fun
Yes.
connection.
Yeah,
So
no, definitely, definitely.
awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Love
Yes.
it. Well, Evan, it was so nice to meet you because we haven't met before, just
Yes.
liaised over email, but appreciate you taking an interest in our publication and also being on our podcast. So
Yes, I
thanks
look
for
forward to
joining us.
seeing more, and yeah, definitely we'll shoot some images over to you guys and hopefully we can kind of get some stuff in there. And yeah, I look forward to, seeing more of your magazine and stuff. So
Thank you. Thank you.
you're
Well,
welcome.
talk to you again soon.
Yes, have a good afternoon. Thank you.
You too.